Everhard, and I'm going to be talking about biometrics today, the present use of biometrics and the future uses of biometrics. What is biometrics? The dictionary definition of biometrics is the metrics related to human characteristics. And that's really kind of a sciencey term, so if you break it down, it just basically means that the things that make you special, the metrics that only you have, and that makes you completely different than anyone else. Uh, then you come to the question is why use biometrics? Biometrics is used for a bunch of different things. Identity protection is a big one, personal files, databases, personal security, and children's safety. Databases is a big one. I'm going to talk about that more later on in the presentation, but a lot of countries now are using biometrics to complete databases, and the US was one of the first ones to do it with fingerprints back in the day. So databases from biometrics have a really long history in the world. Personal files, another thing that's coming up in the near future is everything's going to be hopefully implanted into you with a chip, which will be all your personal files, your medical files, driver's license. And there's already cool things in the works for that. Personal security, obviously that's a big one these days, especially with all the cyber network security and all the breaks, hacks like that. A lot of companies use different type of biometrics to get into secure places, sign in on time clocks, and again, I'll get more into that on the next or later on in the presentation. Types of biometrics. Obviously, there's many different things that you can do with biometrics. The key ones right now are like fingerprinting, hand irises, which are your eyes, face, DNA, and those are all physical biometrics, but then also there's really cool behavioral biometrics, keystrokes, the way you write your name, and obviously a big one is your voice. Most people don't have the same voice, so that's a really cool one. Keystroke I think is really cool because of again all the IT stuff going on in this day and age, and with cybersecurity, is you can tell somebody is them by the way that they're keystroking. Technology is fascinating in that. I'm going to go over some of the key ones. Fingerprints, that's huge. That um, dates back to 221 BC, which is really cool that they can go back that far and figure that out. That some of the big dynasties in China were using their fingerprints on their family crests on one side, or their family crest and their fingerprint on the other side to do seals. Um, when they're making pottery and writing letters and things like that. So it's kind of cool that that we can find that it dates back to that and probably even earlier. 1904, the United States Army uses fingerprints to keep track of their soldiers. It's pretty cool. Being in the Army, we do a lot with the fingerprinting when you're coming into the Army. With the biometrics, that's what we use now. Is you have a fingerprint scanner that you put in, and that's how you sign all your medical documents. And when you join the Army now, that's what you use to sign it. Obviously, that's mostly now run by the FBI. And one of the interesting facts that I found when I was looking into fingerprints is that in 2004, the Department of Homeland Security in the United States has the largest database of fingerprints in the world. And that's not just for U.S. citizens, that's all throughout the world. And it's pretty cool. One of the things I'm going to talk about later on is a device that we used when I was in Afghanistan. But with all the things, the data that we collected there with that fingerprint scanner, we sent it back to the Department of Homeland Security, and they make this huge database. And that goes out to airports and other ways of traveling that then they can look into to see if people are on the no-fly list and shouldn't be coming into the United States. Hand geometry, it's a pretty big thing. I've learned a lot about that lately. I work for a pretty big financial institution, and we use hand geometry to get into our server facility, which houses obviously our data center, which houses all our servers for the company. Pretty cool. I thought it always measured just like your handprint, kind of like fingerprints, but it actually measures the geometry of your hand. And in the picture here, you can see all the different things that it measures, which I think is really cool because not everybody, again, some people have fat fingers, some people have skinny fingers, and that's what it's looking for. And it's pretty cool. It measures your length, width, thickness, and the surface area of an individual's hands while it's on the plate. David Sidolikus developed and patented the hand geometry concept in 1985, and they started using it in 1986. Uh, there's been many different uses for the hand geometry machine, and I'll get into that later. But it's actually really cool. The irises. This is a big thing right now. Again, because not many people, nobody has the same iris as anybody else, not even with contacts or anything like that. And in 1936, an ophthalmologist named Frank Birch figured out that the iris is different than everybody's. And then in 1994, John Dugman developed the algorithm to automate the human iris, and that to me that was pretty fascinating. Any type of programming or anything like that with the algorithms, it's so hard to figure that stuff out, and to figure out one that measures and identifies your iris, that's intense. Like that had to be pretty crazy, especially back in 1994 compared to the technology that we have now. In 1995, the Defense Nuclear Agency completed their first working prototype with the iris scanner, which is cool again because that's only a year after the algorithm came out. So the government really had to be pushing to get this going, to get it done in only a year. It's iris scanning is a preferred biometric because there's only 1 in a 2 million chance that your iris scan will go wrong. And that's huge, 1 in 2 million. That's I think that's right about the same odds that you're going to win the lottery. And you have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than having an iris scan go wrong. So that's pretty cool. The iris is the muscle in your eye that regulates the size of the pupil, so the big black spot that's in the center, which is really, really kind of fascinating. That's what they measure, and it's the color part of your eye. Face recognition is another big thing. It's slowly getting recognition as a biometrics because there are a lot of faults in it right now. If you're not fully facing the camera, they can't scan it. Your face can't be recognized because it's only your profile. So that's what they're working on. But in 1964 and 1965, Woody Bledsoe and Helen Chan Wolf and Charles Bison came up with the concept of computer recognition for human faces. Just like the iris scan, that's 1964 and 65. They have computers that were the size of your bedroom in your house. It wasn't this computer that we have now. So they really had to do a lot of work to come up with that concept for that ginormous computer to recognize somebody's face. In 1997, the first face recognition software called Xeon Face was sold, and that was a project that was funded by the United States Army Research Lab, which is really cool. Obviously, like I said, I'm in the Army, and I've personally, I've never seen any facial recognition going on, but I guess I wasn't in that need to know circle to get facial recognition access. It's really the algorithm that runs the facial recognition is done in 2 parts. The first algorithm is for geometrics, which look at the distinguishing features of the face. And then the second algorithm looks for the photometric, which is a statistical approach that distills an image into a value and compares the values with a template to evaluate the variances. So that's their first one is just going to look for your distinguishing features, cleft palate, moles on certain parts of your face, droopy eye, lazy eye, all that. And then the second algorithm then runs it to eliminate the variances from different people. So really intense programming and different algorithms. Like I said, right now I think it's only about 50-60% accurate is what I was reading, because most people aren't looking directly at a camera when the camera's capturing it. They're looking at 45 degrees, 60 degrees, all that. So they're really trying to perfect it, and it's coming a long way since '97 when the first software came out. So it'll be interesting to see where that comes out in the next couple of years to see how intense it gets. Biometric machines. This is what I really enjoyed was learning about the different kind of machines that they have. There's so many, so I only picked up a couple just to kind of share with. The first one's called Hides, and this is one that I've personally used in real life situations in Afghanistan and drills here in the United States, and it's called the Handheld Intercurrency Identity Detection Equipment. And basically what the Hides does, it collects and matches fingerprints, irises, facial photos, and biographic contextual data of a person of interest against an internal database. And that's the definition that the DoD uses, but it's not always just interest against an internal database, um, or it's not a person of interest, it's just everybody. In Afghanistan, it's not like the United States, Afghanistan, and Iraq. People don't go and register to vote and have a social security card and all that kind of stuff where we know who everybody is in the United States. Especially in Afghanistan, where I was out in the middle of the rural areas where people really are dirt farmers. They didn't they didn't know what their government was. They didn't know what day they were born and stuff like that. That didn't matter to them. So when the U.S. came in, they needed a way to identify people, especially if we're looking for potential Taliban members and other different terrorist organizations inside of the country. So the United States came up with the HIDE system, and basically what it does is, if you look here, this right here at the top, the gold part um, of the HIDE system, that's a that's your fingerprint scanner. It's an electrical scanner. You do all or both thumbs on the fingers, both middle fingers, and both pinkies. And what that does is that stores it in there. And then you look into the blue lens and you take a picture of the person's iris. Then you take a step back and you take a picture of their full face. And then you get some biographical information, name, father's name, the village where they were born, the village that they live in, how many wives they have, things like that. And they put that in a database, not just for a person of interest, but to start a database for Afghanistan because they're trying to make it a democratic state, and they want to know who lives there. But then also, again, later on down the road, if there's an attack and we are able to recover some weapons or ammunition and it's a fingerprint, we can scan it into the database, and lo and behold, we have a match of somebody that we had already put into the HIDE system. Here's a picture of my friend Ryan when we were in Afghanistan. He was the main person in charge of running the HIDE system. You can see they put a little camo bag over it. He's entering the biographical information of the person. So a really cool system, and it's handheld. You can see how small it is. It's easy for a soldier to carry, and it's a very smart way to do it. We have another system in the Army called a BATS, which is a biographical agency tool, and those stay at our detention facilities, and it's just like the HIDES, but it's a whole kit. Comes with its own camera, fingerprint scanner, and a computer. So it's just a big version of the HIDES. The hand geometry scanner, like I said in the beginning, is something that I find really fascinating right now because of the multiple uses that it's used for. As you can see, this is just a typical hand scanner. Put your hands in, you can see little nubs by his fingers, and what that does is you have to lock your fingers next to it, and that starts running your geographical data of your hand. Now, I've used that at my work, like I said, to get into our data center to look at our servers and all that kind of stuff. But my wife works as a nurse, and that's what she uses to clock in and out of work. So no one can say that, hey, yeah, she was here, and so she needs to get paid for that time. The only way to clock in and clock out is with your own hand. So it's a really efficient way for companies now to monitor how much you're actually working. So that's pretty cool. Here's another picture of a practical use, and this is Disneyland. Disneyland now uses hand scanners for season pass holders because people were then selling their season passes to somebody for a day or two so they could use it, and then they were just getting it back. So now only one person can use their hand to get into Disney for their season pass. So I think that was a pretty ingenious way for Disney to make sure they're making all the money that they can. It's not like they need more, but it's good for them. Now the future of biometric, I think this is really cool, cool stuff. Like I said, they're talking about putting chips into people, and I figure by the time that my son has kids, they'll have at least cell phones implanted into their heads so they can use them whenever they want. But these are cool little facts that they're going to be doing. Most likely is developing chips that then hold all your data. The military already has it on our military IDs. We have a little gold disc in it that then holds all our, it's a hard drive basically that holds all our medical documents and all our military documents, and that's in our military ID, and we just hook it up to the computer and it goes. So I can't see why in the near future they won't be putting that into people's bodies. Also, they're working on gait recognition. They count it as a biometrics right now, but the accuracy of it is so low that most people don't use it, most agencies don't. Airports do, but still, it's so hard to do it because the technology isn't there. But as you can see all these different colors on the screen, is everybody has a different gait. Everybody walks differently. Everybody has their feet certain centimeters and meters apart when they walk. They might walk duck-footed. They might walk pigeon-footed. They might curve one shoulder in while the other shoulder gets pulled back. They might look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. But they're really working on this now because it's a great way, especially for law enforcement to use with like bank robbers and people that rob the Circle K because they cover their faces. But again, you only walk the way you walk. No one else walks like you. So they're working on that right now, which I think will be a really cool thing to see in the near future. Now back to the face recognition. London, or Britain, but mainly in London and the subway systems, they're already operating like Big Brother. And from the book 1984, they actually have facial scanners inside their subway systems that scans everybody's face when they come out of the subway. And it gets really weird because they also have sound systems and people monitoring it. So if somebody gets off the train and just throws trash on the ground, the monitor, if he sees it, can call out and say, hey, pick up that trash, don't litter. And then that person's like, wait, what? What just happened? Who saw that? So London's actually taken that step ahead and incorporating this technology into their everyday operations as a society. And I think once they perfect it, I think the U.S. will probably pick up on it and continue with leading the world and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I think that's it. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. Again, this is Danny Everhard, and you have my email, so you can email me any questions. I'd love to answer them. And thank you for listening, sir. Have a great day.